What if I told you that one of the most powerful voices in rock came from a man barely over 5 feet tall? That a shy kid who started on a trumpet, something way off of a guitar, would go on to redefine heavy metal, create an entire stage persona, and leave a legacy that's still growing more than a decade after his death. This isn't just the story of a singer. This is the story of Ronnie James Dio, the man who turned myths into music and who fought his way to the top more than once. Not only did he shape the industry, but he also had a dark side to him. If you can picture the word betrayal, you would think of him. Later on in the video, we will go into the dark side of Dio. But, for now, let's take a step back and learn about the man who became one of rock and heavy metal's most powerful voices. Ronald James Dio was born on July 10th, 1942, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. His parents, both of Italian heritage, instilled discipline and tradition. When he was still young, the family moved to Cortland, New York, a small town with no hint that it would produce a future metal icon. At age 5, Ronnie began playing trumpet. His father insisted he learn a respectable instrument before considering rock music. That early training gave him exceptional breath control, a secret weapon that allowed him to hold long, soaring notes decades later without strain. Hidden fact: Ronnie never took formal vocal lessons. Instead, he studied opera singers and taught himself to mimic their projection. He credited Mario Lanza as one of his earliest influences. In high school, Ronnie joined the band The Vegas Kings, later renamed multiple times as they experimented with styles, from doo-wop to early rock and roll. He was already singing while playing bass, but he also handled horn sections when needed. College could have been his safety net. He even enrolled at the University at Buffalo, but after just one semester, he dropped out to chase music full-time. A risky choice in the 1960s, but he never looked back. What he didn't know was that his small-town gigs were about to collide with one of rock's biggest names and open a door to destiny. By the early 70s, Ronnie's band, now called Elf, had found a niche as a reliable opener for touring acts. Their bluesy hard rock drew attention from one very important fan, Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple. Hidden fact: Blackmore didn't first hear Dio live, but on a demo tape recorded in a tiny upstate New York studio. That tape convinced him to check out Elf in person, and eventually recruit Dio for his next project. In 1975, Dio officially joined Blackmore's new band, Rainbow. Here, he unleashed his love for fantasy storytelling, drawing from medieval legends, swords and sorcery, and even biblical imagery. Albums like Rising, 1976, and Long Live Rock and Roll, 1978, cemented Rainbow as one of the era's most creative hard rock bands. But the partnership was turbulent. Blackmore leaned toward commercial radio hits. Dio wanted to keep the epic, mystical vibe alive. The tension was constant. Rumor. During a heated session for Long Live Rock and Roll, Dio reportedly walked out of the studio mid-recording, telling Blackmore, "If you want a pop singer, find one." By 1979, he was out of Rainbow. But his timing couldn't have been better. Another legendary band was about to come calling. Black Sabbath in 1979 was a band in crisis. Ozzy Osbourne had been fired, and many assumed the group was finished. But Tony Iommi remembered Dio from a chance meeting years earlier. When Dio agreed to audition, the chemistry was instant. Hidden fact: Dio's first jam with Sabbath produced Children of the Sea in a single afternoon, a song that would make Heaven and Hell one of the band's greatest albums. Released in 1980, Heaven and Hell was a critical and commercial success. It re-energized the band, brought in new fans, and proved Sabbath could survive without Ozzy. The follow-up, Mob Rules, 1981, kept the fire burning. But behind the scenes, tensions resurfaced. Disagreements over the final mix of the live album. Live Evil spiraled into personal accusations. Rumor: Some members believe Dio was sneaking into the studio at night to raise his own vocals in the mix, an accusation he denied, but which fueled mistrust. By late 1982, Dio was gone. Again, but this time he wasn't joining another stars band. He was about to start his own empire. Forming the band, Dio gave Ronnie total creative control. In 1983, they released Holy Diver, an album that exploded onto the metal scene. The title track became an instant classic, and Rainbow in the Dark dominated rock radio. Here's the twist. Ronnie hated Rainbow in the Dark so much during recording that he nearly destroyed the master tape. He thought it was too commercial, but his bandmates convinced him to keep it. It went on to become one of his signature songs. The 80s were Dio's golden years. Albums like The Last in Line, 1984, and Sacred Heart, 1985, were accompanied by massive stage productions, dragons, castles, lasers, and pyrotechnics. His concerts weren't just shows. They were heavy metal theater. Hidden fact, the famous devil horns hand gesture, Dio popularized it in metal, claiming he learned it from his Italian grandmother as a way to ward off evil spirits. While not invented by him, his use made it a universal symbol in rock. By the late 80s, trends in rock were changing. Glam metal took over MTV, and grunge was looming. Dio's music remained respected, but the industry spotlight shifted. It seemed like the era of classic metal might be over, until an old alliance reignited the fire. In 2006, Dio reunited with Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Vinny Appice to form Heaven and Hell. This wasn't a nostalgia act. They were determined to create new music. Their 2009 album, The Devil You Know, was dark, heavy, and uncompromising. Hidden fact, the band used the name Heaven and Hell instead of Black Sabbath, partly to avoid confusion with the Aussie-fronted version of Sabbath touring at the same time, and to signal that this was a unique chapter. Their tour was a triumph, proving that Dio's voice had lost none of its power. But midway through, he began experiencing severe stomach pains. At first, he blamed tour stress. The truth was far more serious. In November 2009, Ronnie James Dio was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Despite the brutal treatments, he remained connected to fans, signing autographs at charity events and promising he would return to the stage. His final concert took place on August 29, 2009, in Atlantic City. For those who were there, it was unknowingly a farewell. On May 16, 2010, the world lost one of its greatest rock voices. He was 67. Tributes came from every corner of music, from Metallica to Bruce Dickinson, from Rob Halford to Ozzy Osbourne himself. Hidden fact, at his public memorial, fans from over 30 countries attended, many wearing capes, leather, and even medieval armor in tribute to his stage persona. In the years since, Dio's legacy has only grown. A monument in Bulgaria, charity events through the Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund, and even hologram tours have kept his voice alive. Ronnie James Dio's journey wasn't just about music, it was about never backing down. From a trumpet-playing kid in Cortland to the voice of Black Sabbath and beyond, he proved that size doesn't matter when your voice can shake the world. And maybe that's why his story still inspires, because Dio wasn't just singing about heroes, he was one. If you enjoyed this look into the life and legacy of Ronnie James Dio, make sure to like this video, drop a comment about your favorite Dio song or memory, and subscribe so you never miss another deep dive into the legends of music. The voice may be gone, but the legend will echo forever.